Jezebel, St. Andrew, Jezebel. Welcome back to the St. Andrew's Jezebel Podcast. I'm Ashley Feller, and I'm excited to have returning guest Matt Siegel of The Dirty Good joining us again today. We'll be chatting about his upcoming album release, the process of making the album, and how musicians might approach the challenge of recording a single versus an album. We'll also touch on his career with the Brothers Revival and what we love about the vibrant and creative community here in St. Andrews. As we kick off the new year, we also want to wish everyone a happy and healthy 2023 and remind our listeners about some of the exciting cultural events happening in historic St. Andrews for the week of January 5th through January 11th. Stay tuned for more with Matt and all the amazing talent we have here in St. Andrews. We are here today with Matt Siegel of The Dirty Good. This is a return visit. We're happy to have him back. So Matt, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So since our last talk, you've had a busy year with new endeavors. How about you tell us more about all the things that you've been involved in since our last talk and in the first quarter for next year?
Yeah. So, and it was funny, I actually listened to that interview the other night, wondering, I couldn't remember what we talked about and all that. And it's really changed in that since the beginning of this year. So since then, I went through a period of intense writing. So, and during that songwriting period, which I haven't experienced a period like that probably ever. I've had some pretty intense periods where I'm one of those people that like, I'll write a batch of songs all at once and then I'll go dry for, a while. But I just had this group of songs that I felt very strongly about. And as I started working more and more on it, I was playing a lot more solo acoustic shows. And I came to the decision that it's time to move forward with putting these out on an album. So for next year, I'm shooting for spring, maybe early summer, depending upon some of the time frame. But really over the next 2 months now is when I'm recording. So I'm already in the process, have a few songs done, and a few more to go.
Speaking of the Dirty Good, I noticed that you moved away from the name One More Guitarist into The Dirty Good. Could you expand on that and tell me about how that name came about?
Yeah, sure. So, and One More Guitarist was a kind of a little bit more tongue-in-cheek and a joke that I talked about previously. So The Dirty Good was actually a band name that I had for a previous band back in Texas. And I just always loved the name. And when I was thinking about this project, I was thinking about the sounds I'm interested in, the genres, and kind of my writing style, and also how I could tie that to maybe more altruistic aspects of my life and things that are important.
I can see that. I really have enjoyed your single that just came out, Time is a River, Time is a Road. And one of the lines that really grabbed me, because I was really trying hard to pull the lyrics out just from listening. I almost reached out to you, but it would have been a little short notice to send me the lyrics.
Yeah.
But the one I was able to catch was Time Ain't Something for the Meter Maid's Eye. Is that right? Did I grab that right? That is awesome. How did that come about?
So when I was writing that song, the song itself is very much about the passing of time, and there's parts of it that is sort of a lament, but there's also parts that are also very hopeful. And really it's about, for me personally, it's about allowing things to happen in their appropriate amount of time. And so that line about the meter maid's eye, you just had the image. I was just going for some imagery there that, I was just thinking about that where, we forget sometimes how important the passing of time is. And then we look and we're like, oh, wow, I spent how much time, doing something that probably wasn't what was more purposeful to me, I think depending upon how you see it, time could be a gift or time could be a curse. So it's really what you do with it.
It really is a double-edged sword. And to think of how many songwriters have embraced that theme. How many songs are there about time?
And when you think about it, and I mean, I love like Pink Floyd. I mean, obviously.
That's exactly where my brain was going.
Yeah, so obviously, their song Time it's a very sad, and depressing song. so amazing. But there's so many others also. But yeah, I'm very, very much a fan of Floyd, and I listen, very influenced by them, definitely.
That's kind of what I was thinking when I was listening to it. It reminds me a bit of Pink Floyd, and also makes me think a little bit of Alan Parsons Project. Not just from the sound, but that I know that you do your own production, which leads me to my next question. What was your production process like? Did you play all the instruments on vocals on that?
So that's all the vocals are me and all the guitars, and the drums are programmed, which I did. But, sometimes when people hear programmed drums, they think it's like, oh, you just, press a few buttons. But no, you're actually writing a drum part, and you have to be, I was going for drums that were very authentic sounding. So you have to be very particular, the levels and how you program all that. So, and sometimes the drums take the longest. And I'm a huge fan of drums, even though I'm not a drummer. I actually wanted to be a drummer originally, and I just love drums and rhythm. And so I did all that. But then I had David Goldfleece, my friend, musical mentor, play bass. And then I had a friend in Austin do the mixing. His name is Marcelo Alcazar, and he's got a studio out there called Song Sketcher, and he did great work with the tracks I sent them.
Well, great job amongst all of you. And in terms of the drum parts, you nailed it, because I wouldn't have thought those were programmed drum parts.
That's what I'm going for. It's been really exciting because a lot of people have said to me, and a lot of drummers have been said to me, like, who played the drums on that? And I'd be like, well, and so if I could trick drummers, I think I'm on to something there.
Yes, that's pretty good. And back to what you were saying, for anyone who might raise an eyebrow at programmed drums, they should try to do it. It's very difficult.
Wholeheartedly. Yes, definitely.
I would quickly hand that off to someone else. So are you still doing remote studio work?
Actually, I haven't been. The reason being is that I've been so busy with my brother's revival, which is my touring project that, we've talked about in the past, and working on the Dirty Goods project, that everything else has kind of taken a back seat.
Well, very cool. And I've been following A Brother's Revival online as well. I've seen some amazing pictures and some videos as well. So could you tell me more about your experiences with that band throughout the year? And tell me a little more. I saw a picture that you and my dear friend, Sarah Heath, happened to be at the same, was it Government Mule or Derek Trucks concert?
It was at Tedeschi Trucks.
That's right. She caught the slide. Tell me about that, too.
Oh, man, I am so jealous. So about the band, it's been a great year. We toured all around the country, primarily focused on the Eastern Seaboard, but we made it out to Colorado for a great show a few months ago, and it's just every time we play a show, the response from the crowd has been amazing. And it's just been such a joy. And it really has led me to the Dirty Good project. And what I mean by that is there was a time I was on stage playing with the band earlier this year, and I had this epiphany, this, for lack of a better word, religious experience. And essentially I ended up feeling this great sense of oneness with everyone in the room, not just the musicians I'm playing with on stage, but with the people in the crowd. And it was really beautiful. And it was really where it kind of said to me that there's more to do here. And I'm interested in that connection. I want people to feel connected through music. That's how I feel connection with people often. And I think A Brother's Revival has been the sort of guide to get me to stepping forward and doing this project. Oh, and then about Sarah. Yeah. I'm sorry. So Sarah is a dear friend I've known for quite a few years. It turned out I was there with my buddy Drew, and she was there with her beau. And we were sitting in two separate sections, but we saw each other. We said hi before. And then at the end of the night, I see her getting the slide. I see it throws it out. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like, can I see it? And so I hold it for a minute. I'm a huge Derek Trucks fan. And then we get a picture together. And I offered her an insane amount of money, and she would not take it. But
good girl.
Yeah. So no, it's a treasure for sure.
Absolutely. When I saw that picture, my heart just exploded.
Yeah.
I loved that.
I was really happy for her. It was so cool to see. And she was so just beyond ecstatic, which, yeah, who wouldn't be if you're a fan?
She called me soon after and I got to hear it. It was cool.
Nice.
Yeah. With this album coming out with The Dirty Good, I'm only assuming that there's going to be some performances as that album is released. Is that going to happen? And have you got players already lined up who may be involved in where you're going to play?
Yeah, so there definitely will be live performances. I am following the model of a band that is like on a major record label where typically, or maybe in the old days, might be different now, but typically a band will go into the studio, record the album, and then they'll go out and support it. And I'm following that model.
Right.
So, and that's why, I expect the first shows to be in spring, early summer. I'm giving everything its time. Time is important, right? So once the album is released, I'll have my band together. I have a lot of different people that are interested in playing with me and that I'm interested in playing. So I don't have the official lineup per se, but I imagine that people who they see I play with, they'll see some familiar faces, and it's going to be a good time no matter what.
I like that. And I especially like that you're going to do a whole album, because I've noticed there's sort of, I don't want to say divide, but the approach tends to be one way or the other. Is it the thing to put out singles, or is it the thing to put out albums? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah.
And, I got to say, like the music business stuff, I've talked with a lot of local musicians. I love talking shop, so if there are any musicians out there that, want to hear another person's opinion on it that's been in the industry a while in some capacity, I'd love to chat. But so when it comes to singles and albums, I definitely think it depends upon your genre. And what your goals are. So I released this first song to get out there to just start kind of getting my name out there more in this capacity. I'm known primarily as a guitarist, and I wanted people to see that, oh, hey, there's something more there, that he's a songwriter. I've been a songwriter since I was a teenager, and that I'm a singer. And, really, and I'm a composer. I mean, the song is composition, and a composition aspect to it. So I wanted to kind of get that out there so that when I come out with the album, they'll, already be prepared, that it's not just Matt just playing a lot of guitar licks and trying to make the best solo possible. But I am trying to make the best solo possible, mind you. I'm still a guitarist. So I think for me, that's what works. But I think like if you're in a pop format, singles are great. It really depends upon what you want to do. Especially these days with content creators being such an important part of our musical society, that those people, they're churning out songs every week, every other week. And I give them all the credit. It's a lot of work, but I guess it's really about where you want to go with it. I think both are viable.
I do too. And I think it's like you said, it depends on the context and what you're wanting to do. So with your album coming out, would you say that it's conceptual, or is it where each track could stand alone, or maybe both?
Some are very conceptual. There is a common theme through a lot of the songs. So when I went through that period of songwriting, it was really coming from a standpoint of that feeling I had of like being open and connecting, and my kind of thinking about time and some other, issues we deal with as we get a little older. Or as we get very older. So I think I wouldn't call it a concept album per se, but there definitely is a theme. There are a couple of songs that are, I think, fit, but yeah, like they could just stand on their own. Like it could be just a single, and, it wouldn't have to be connected to an album per se.
Well done.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of the last time, and more specifically the time before that we've talked on the podcast, we talked about what your influences were growing up and what shaped you. There's a lot of great music out right now, and it sort of irritates me when folks say, there's no good music out. It's like, yes, there is. You just have to be willing to position yourself to be receptive to it. And I think you're pretty hip to new music. That's great. What have you been enjoying lately?
Well, thanks for that. Though I really am always searching for, new music that speaks to me. So I have to admit, I am a fan of Goose, if you ever heard Goose at all. So Goose is a jam band. They're very much in the vein of Fish, and they're touring with the Trey Anastasio band.
I followed Fish for a bit.
Did you?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you'd like Goose then. So they have an album called Dripfield, and the first 4 songs on that album, to me, are just perfect. I just love the sound of it. It's very modern, and it's not a jam band in the sense of like navel gazing.
Yeah.
So where I love a lot of jam band music, the navel gazing aspect of it, where like sometimes it's just a little too much of, someone just kind of plinking away on their guitar and making these random noises or notes. After a while, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like it's still a song, and I want that song to take you on a journey. And if that sometimes that's part of the journey, right? But you got to get out of that space and continue on with the journey of the song. So Goose is on my list right now. People are going to hate me for it, but I'm going to say,
I know what you're going to say.
I got to say the new Midnight, but Taylor Swift's new album, it's pretty dang good. So I'm enjoying it. I listen to it. I like the sounds on it, and I really enjoy being in the studio and like listening to the production value and the production level of that album. It's beautiful sounding, actually. So whether you like her or not, I'm trying to think, who else? Tedeschi Trucks is always, there for me. But I've been taking a step back, actually, and going back to some of my earlier influences. So I've been listening to a lot of Dylan again. So when it comes to lyricists, Bob Dylan is, I do believe he's a genius, and that, really, when you listen to some of his songs, if you read the lyrics, there's just such beautiful poetry in there that it's just, to this day, like I'm still discovering aspects of it that I was like, oh man, I never heard that before. And I might have listened to that song, 1,000 times. So, I'm listening to Dylan, and I also have been rediscovering the first few albums from Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah, those are the best ones.
Those, they really are. I listened to some of his later stuff, and I'm like, all right, it's cool. I'm sure people love it. But for me, those early ones, they had such magic. And the songs are just great songs. And, I don't think I put it out there that much. But yeah, he's definitely an influence on me. I grew up, right at that time where, he kind of came in as, to me, Dave Matthews at that time was like a breath of fresh air, because we were like on our second or third wave of grunge at that point, which was already like very corporate. And it wasn't like the bands from Seattle. It was like, oh, hey, we're going to find some kids that kind of wear flannel and look like this, and we're going to make money off of them. And to me, that's when a genre is kind of on its way down. And so Dave Matthews came in, it was like acoustic guitar and, a violin and horns, and, while all these other bands are just doing the grunge thing. It was really cool at that time. So I dig it.
And there are videos too. Did you ever see that video for I Did It? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh,
what an interesting video.
I kind of have to go back and watch it. I remember, obviously, like, What Would You Say? I remember there was some interesting visuals there. But yeah, that's true. And that was a time where videos were still important, and you could do something really artistic with them, and I remember, I grew up in that era where, I loved watching videos, and I remember there was a director, Mark, I think his last name was Romanek, and like he did like some of the Alice in Chains videos, like I think he did Angry Chair, and I'm trying to think what else he did, but they were like they were just beautifully shot, and they were very artistic, and just the visuals of them all. And I love that, like with music, is like, I want those kind of visuals. I want people to, see music as something beyond just this 3-minute song. So.
And I think, A Brothers Revival captures that. I really do.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, we do the Allman Brothers thing where A Brothers Revival is just, we're very dedicated to that sound, trying to recreate that experience or recreating the experience, not trying. I think we're pretty good at it. If I could toot my own horn, but I'm really tooting the band's horn because the guys I get to play with are just such ace musicians. So every time I'm up there on stage, I'm like, man, how'd I get to play with these guys? This is awesome.
Well, you're very deserving, I think so.
Thanks.
Have you been able to check out any of the Allman Betts band?
I have, yeah.
What do you think of that?
In Betts band, they've got some great players in there. And I think with Allman Betts, like they are keeping it alive, and they're really trying to, kind of keep that sound and that vibe going. And, I know like now they're kind of off doing their solo thing for a bit, but they'll come together for the Allman Brothers family reunion. And, but yeah, there are some amazing musicians they got with them. The slide guitarist, Johnny Statula, is, he's just a great player. So it's a joy to watch them perform.
They are. I've only recently started listening to them. I'd seen their names billions of times, but I just happened to be the rare time that I'm channel surfing.
Yeah.
There's a station called Circle, and they just happened to be on. I'm like, ooh, I got to watch this. So I had to ask you about that.
Very cool.
Yeah. So as we know, St. Andrews is always developing. How would you like to see it furtherly develop?
What I love is that St. Andrews, as it's developing, there really is that focus on the arts. And I really enjoy that. So I love that we're not just seeing music. Comedy has taken such a strong step forward, in the St. Andrews scene. And, I try to go down to the Taproom when they have got like their Wednesday night open mics. And I know there are other venues that have ticketed shows. And, the local comedians, I mean, my hat's off to you.
I just had Jason here right before you.
Oh, man. Okay, great. That's so cool. I've never met Jason in person, and I need to.
Yeah.
I need to chat with him. But, I was talking with Scott and Scott Jernigan and some of the other comics, and they're just really, they're trying to do it. And I just love that. And then with that, I mean, you also have the musicians. I mean, everyone's pushing forward and, doing some really creative, I love what Corey's doing with a lot of the folk stuff. I guess that's really up your alley. I know a lot of the folk stuff is, and, he's doing something in Lynn Haven on Friday, which I know this will air after that, but like, I'm looking forward to checking that out. So I really think that as St. Andrews grows, as long as they keep that eye on the arts and, cultivating, music and comedy and visual arts and anything else, it's just going to keep on getting better and better.
I agree. Well, Matt, thank you so much for all the music that you're making and the gift you're offering the world with your music. And thank you for being here again on the St. Andrews Jezebel Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Great.
All the best and good luck to you. And until next time, keep St. Andrews salty. One of the best things about St. Andrews is that you can see live music every day. That's right. There is live music being played somewhere in St. Andrews 7 nights a week. Fortunately, my friend Ken Schaefer creates and publishes a weekly schedule for St. Andrews as well as most of Bay County. Ken's spreadsheet schedule is updated often when there's any changes. Ken also shares individual music events and is walking the walk and talking the talk when it comes to supporting live music. Not only does Ken supply the music schedules, but he attends several music performances a week and takes fantastic photos of the musicians. As a working musician myself, I feel blessed to have Ken and his wife Donna as treasured members of our local musical family. Make sure you like and follow Ken's page, Salty Sounds in St. Andrews, and Oh Boy Music on Facebook, so that you'll always know where all the live music will happen. Thank you so much, Ken, for everything you do. And now for some community events for the week of January the 5th through January the 11th, 2023. Let's start out with Thursday. My good friend Scott Wetter is performing at Burgun Barrell from 6 p.m. If you haven't been to Burgun Barrell before, they have a very cozy atmosphere. They have a great selection of wine. They have really comfortable couches that you can sit on, and they have amazing food. I really think you'll enjoy Scott Wetter. We used to play music together many years ago, and whenever I'm able to go see him, he does often invite me to come sit in, so thank you, Scott, for giving me that opportunity to make music with you. He has a lot of really great original music. He is what you call a songwriter's songwriter for sure. He plays a lot of Tom Waits. He plays some Leon Redbone. He also plays some Mark Knopfler and John Hartford, but really it's his own original songs that I would go to see. He's wonderful. Don't miss Scott Wetter at Burgun Barrell from 6 to 9. Now for Friday, you've been eating so much any leftovers, I bet you're ready for some restaurant food. Why don't you go to Uncle Ernie's for dinner? It's right there on Bayview Avenue. It has a wonderful water view, and if you're on a boat, you could even pull your boat up to the dock and then go up into the restaurant and have dinner. They have a great selection of cocktails and wine. They have wonderful desserts and absolutely fabulous seafood. Okay, so coming up for your Saturday morning, if you're an early riser, then I suggest you check out the market at St. Andrews. This is in the Oaks by the Bay Park, which is at the end of Beck Avenue, and they have all kinds of local arts and crafts vendors. I think they have food trucks. And there is also live music at the Taproom that is directly across the street, and I bet you can hear the music at the Taproom over at the park. This is a great place to take your kids because there's lots of room to play in the grass, and the park is just beautiful. You can walk down the old boardwalk all the way down to the bay and look out at Shell Island and just get a great view. I love Oaks by the Bay Park, and I also love the market. After you're done with the farmer's market, then you're in luck because one of the best songwriters, and not just all of Bay County, but I would say the whole country, Anthony Peebles, is playing at Little Village at 1 p.m. Anthony is another person who has wonderful original music, but he has a great cover repertoire as well. He really plays something that appeals to everyone, and he has an absolutely beautiful voice. Don't miss Anthony Peebles. Go get your friends, go have some tacos and some beer, and also their homemade pie is fantastic. Little Village at 1 p.m. Okay, coming up for your Saturday night, if you need some laughter in your life, then go check out High Humidity Humor. They have a comedy show at the library on Beck, and that starts at 8 p.m. and the tickets are $10. Okay, let's move on to Sunday. Sunday Fun Day. I like to go out for brunch in St. Andrews when I'm there on a Sunday. So for this week, I'd like to suggest either Alice's or Burgun Barrell. They both got great menus. I believe Alice's has live music during brunch. I'm not sure if Burgun Barrell does on Sundays, but they are absolutely fantastic. At Alice's, they have great shrimp and grits. It's my favorite place to get a Bloody Mary. You will love it. Then, after you've stuffed yourself with brunch and drinks, why not take a nice walk just up Beck Avenue and go see the Art in Public Spaces display created by the Floriopolis volunteers on Janie's Fence. There's a new theme every couple of months. I'm not sure what the theme is at the moment, but whatever it is, I'm sure it's fantastic. If you listened last week, you might remember that we had Kirk Lancaster on the show, and he is the founder and often host of Monday Night Little Fest, which is a weekly event every Monday at the Taproom from 6 to 9. This is a weekly showcase of different musicians. It's something different every week, and all different styles too. So bring your friends after you get off work on Monday. Head over to the Taproom. Sometimes they've got a food truck. You can grab something to eat. If they don't, then there's always Thai basil across the street. And enjoy yourself in the courtyard. They've got a great variety of beers. And I hear they even have pinball machines now. Okay, so I am just so proud of Panama City Comedy because I think St. Andrews has had more comedy now than they ever had in all the years that I have been visiting St. Andrews and when I lived there. This Tuesday, there is a comedy open mic at the library on Beck at 7:30 p.m. and all skill levels are welcome, and I think everyone gets 5 minutes. Closing out our weekly event calendar, Wednesday, go have lunch at the Captain's Table. This was a restaurant that was destroyed by Hurricane Michael back in 2018, and it was closed for a couple of years. But guess what? They have reopened and they are better than ever. And they have live music. I'm not sure who's playing there on Wednesday. If they have live music on Wednesday, I'll have to do some investigating. But I highly recommend Captain's Table. They have been in St. Andrews for a very long time and they have some of the best seafood around. And then after you've enjoyed yourself at the Captain's Table, it's just a short walk over to Bayview Avenue. Go over to the Salty Hobo. They are a dive bar and they do some really great pours there. They're generous and they also have a great courtyard. Well, y'all, I hope that this has given you some great ideas on how to spend your time in St. Andrews while you're living here or if you're just visiting. There's always something fun to do. That's all the community events I've got for this week. Tune in next week for more. Thank you so much for joining us for another exciting episode of the St. Andrews Jezebel Podcast. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Matt Siegel of The Dirty Good and learning about his upcoming music projects. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with all your salty friends and follow the St. Andrews Jezebel Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. If you have a moment, I would love it if you would leave us a review as well. This really helps the show be seen. And if you're interested in sponsoring an episode, please don't hesitate to DM the podcast. New episodes come out every Thursday on all major streaming platforms. For more great episodes celebrating art, music, comedy, and small businesses in St. Andrews. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, keep St. Andrews salty.